Hey, what's up everybody? It's Lids, and we're back for some more Mardek. And last time we, of course, found this new area in the Crimson Peak where we got a little bit more loot, most notably picking up a new shield for Mardek, so that was good to see. However, we are first and foremost looking for the Fire Temple, and we found this other area here. One moment while we go into this fight. Fire Opals and Amberistals, so we're trying to master Sin Strike on Zack. Let's see if we can make a point of doing that, or at least getting closer to doing that here. I think we found that the Amberistals are at least somewhat resistant to Dark, which is unfortunate. Zack won't be doing his maximum amount of damage here, but at least getting close to mastering the skill at the very least. Flame against Zack will be a little bit of damage, but Vern's next, and Vern, I'm thinking you can probably take these guys out with just normal attack. That you can. And Legion, I mean, could certainly give us the easy way out and say just use a Tsunami, and that might not be enough for the Amberistal, because the Amberistal does have a lot of magic defense, remember that. Fire Opal, though, definitely would go down. Maybe for that reason, it's worth just going with Bubble Breath to take out the Fire Opal, and no overkill necessary. Because Mardek, of course, does also have a Water Slash. That should definitely be enough to take this guy out. In which case, no problem. Okay, let's heal up here, and what I was saying before is that, well, we are of course first and foremost looking for the Fire Temple, and we are in this new east area of Crimson Peak that we've not yet been to, and there's this save crystal here and this seemingly quite long, dramatic bridge over a pit of lava. You know what? Maybe let's take the hint here. I'm thinking we probably save, because in the past, whenever we've seen these save crystals seemingly in the middle of nowhere in these new areas, that means that something's about to go down, and what? The world's saviors? Well, you didn't think we were done with them, did you? You! I recognize you, even with that silly helmet on. You're one of those pesky Gruul soldiers from Chapter 2. What are you doing here? Well, hello there, world saviors. We're here to get the Fire Crystal. Aha! So the Fire Crystal is indeed in this large temple here. Seems to be dedicated to the element of fire. I should have known. And I did, because we came here. We are here to take the crystal too, you see? Uh-oh. I suppose we maybe should have anticipated something like that. I hope we find it soon, because we've been in this cave for ages, and it's hot. Not as hot as you, my dear. Now stop your complaining. So, are we gonna find him then, boss? 9! Not now. We could easily cleanse the terrain with you, petty soldier with his varied assortment of cronies. But we need to save our strength for the temple ahead if we are to beat them to the crystal. We can't spend even 1 milligram of it. Not 1! Our strength, that is. So come, saviors! Into the temple we go! We'll make this a race, eh? First one to the crystal. It will really be more like a race between a diseased and doddering legless Gruul and a speedy wasp high on some kind of illegal drug. And we are the wasp, high on our own amazing splendor. You have no chance! Ha! Saviors, away! Okay, I suppose it's a race. And maybe that's a sign that this is in fact the way into the temple, and it seems like that could very well be the case, seeing as how this is probably one of the last areas in Crimson Peak we've explored, I think, just about everything else. I suppose that race will have to wait, as we find a bit of an assortment of enemies here. So again, if we were to say Sin Strike, one benefit of that is that it is particularly strong against high defense enemies, so I'm curious how effective it is against the Lava Blob. It has 40 defense, yes, but no dark resistance, so let's test this out. And yes, it does have enough damage to get rid of it. You see that it dealt the same amount of damage, 277, as I think we saw against other enemies that had no dark resistance. So if, say, we were to do it against the Magmazard, it would probably be slightly more than that this time around, because we, of course, have now accumulated an additional kill with Zack, and the Magmazard is another enemy with 0 dark resistance. So, Vern, however, you are next, and for you, you could say get rid of the Fire Opal. That might be useful, or maybe even the Magmazard. However, I'd be curious to see if we could keep that one around and see what happens if we were to attack it with Zack. Might not still have it up at that point in time, though. Because Legion here, say if you were to Bubble Breath it, that would take it out. And then Mardek, that leaves you on amberistal duty. That's quite alright. Okay, and a remedy is actually quite useful. That removes any and all status effects, so that's big. Get more of those. And I thought there was one other chest. Yes, over here. Phoenix down is also not bad. Mardek has 0, which is concerning, especially when his inventory is actually completely full, is what we're seeing there. Did not let me put it there. That would lead me to believe that we probably should move some things around to put some of those really important items in his inventory as well. And he does have some really old weapons, so we could probably make a point of dumping some of those, say putting them in Vern's inventory instead, just to make a point of allowing Mardek to also have Phoenix down. And Legion has 2, so why don't we steal one of his? However, that is a fairly sparse amount of those Phoenix downs. That is a very important item. So, what? Hold on, let's check our map. Yeah, I think we found it. That says Fire Temple. Let's see what people have to say about this. Roha? These temples of crystals on your worlds are strewn across the landscape, hidden from prying eyes. On Anshaw, there was more order. We arranged our temples in cities, free for all to visit. Of course, this is because our morality was in check, and there was no chance of villains seizing the crystals out of power lust. I'm pretty sure this is what we heard Rohop say when we were in the Water Temple as well. At least, that is the way it used to be. With these current circumstances, I can only wonder what has been done with the elemental crystals of my world. Okay, but maybe it's, say, others? We did have Legion with us as well when we were in the Water Temple, so we might see the same explanation here. Oh, however, given how this is Legion music, that would suggest that this is perhaps a more general update on Legion the character. I must say, existence within this metal shell is not quite as miserable as I anticipated. Nothing could be as anguishingly miserable as what I anticipated, but this does come despairingly close. Gods, I'm depressed. Oh, it's not so bad, is it? We're getting to experience reality in such a novel and fascinating manner, which is a chance that few would get. How many could say that they saw reality through the mechanical eyes of a metal shell? A kind of novel and unusual punishment, more like. Just another to add to the long list of things I have to endure that others just don't. Bloody curse. Curse? Oh, bother. I shouldn't have mentioned that. Now you'll just end up hounding me about it. And that horrible Baron will mock me endlessly about it. Yet more cause to be abjectly crestfallen. Wow! Yet more ammo to add to my arsenal against you, you sniveling wimp. But you are such a pathetically easy target. Like shooting dead fat fish in an otherwise empty barrel, using a hilariously large cannon. I want to kill some things. You will let me slaughter some things, ugly knight, or I will gut you while you sleep. Not that I won't do that anyway. Ha 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 ha! I am a death machine. I will deliver death. See what we have to put up with? It's nothing but misery in here. Pure, agonizing torture. I wish I was dead. Again. Properly. We're not dead? Ah! Ah! Where am I? Who are you? I don't understand. Now I remember. I am made of metal! Eee! Just when I thought I couldn't feel any worse, I do indeed feel worse. Gods, that mind's madness would drive me mad too if I wasn't busy being driven to sheer and utter eye-leaking despondence by it. Not that these fake eyes can leak, and they give bad vision. This metal brain isn't very well made. It's even worse than the time I was stuck in that sarcophagus for 3 weeks and... Oh, shut up, will you? I long for the day when I can simply kill you, nay, annihilate you utterly from existence. Leave your mind to nothingness, feed you to a soul devourer. Believe me when I say that I long for that day too. gods, I'm impressed. Please excuse us. Maybe you'd prefer to carry on with your adventures instead of listening to this schizophrenic bickering. But don't worry. I'll make sure this body follows you despite this internal mess of misery, malice, and madness. I'm so very glad that I became an expert at meditation in life. A useful skill, indeed. Okay, so that is Legion. Yes, however, I'm wondering if, say, Legion also has something specific to the Fire Temple to say. Wahahaha! I'm back, Faders. I shall gather you once more, and once more I will use you to take over the world! All will fall before I, the great Baron von Doomkill. I said I would be back! And yes, that is also definitely what we heard when we were in the Water Temple. However, Zack and Vern we did not have in the Water Temple, so I'm curious to see what they have to say. And of course, in Zack's case, the answer is precisely nothing. However, Vern, maybe you have something to say? And this is Vern's music, so maybe this is a general update on Vern as well. Ah, so you're ready to be converted. This is great. Okay, what you need to do first is... no, sorry, I just wanted to talk to you about something else. Something else? Like what? Well, what else do you talk about other than Yalort? Well, that's a stupid and offensive question. How dare you question my piety to my deity by even suggesting that I devote even a fraction of my mighty mind to anything else? What nonsense. I can't even imagine not having a mind entirely devoted to Yalort, since I have no room in my mind for imagining, because it's all taken up by worshipping Yalort. Worry not, though, my friend, because though you are one of the most blasphemous sinners I've ever had the misfortune of associating with, Yalort loves us all, and would easily accept you to cleanse you of your taints. All you must do is accept him. Maybe we should get back to adventuring. Ah, so you want to defy him, then? So be it, but you will live to regret it. Or you will die and regret it afterwards. One of those. Okay. But Vern, do you have anything to say about the Fire Temple specifically? This is an elemental temple, the home of one of Yalort's own crystals. It is truly an honor to be here. That's more like it. Okay, and, well, what exactly will we find in the Fire Temple? Of course, we're theoretically racing the World Saviors, and perhaps better kick it into high gear in that case. We're in fact staring the miasmal chalice in the face. It is so see-through that I didn't even realize it at first. The miasmal chalice is, of course, an object called a miasmal chalice. When you defeat monsters in this temple, their dark essence is added to this chalice, filling it. Fill it with 100 essences, and you can take it as your own. Much like the miasmal chalices in the previous temples, and this one is, of course, 0% full, because we only just got here. We cannot take it yet. However, we will be on the lookout to take out more enemies and pick up that chalice. As for what we find here, though, the Ope is here once more. Save crystal, yes. And if we look at the various doors here, well, we have two options to the left and the right, and one option through the middle. And if previous experiences in other temples are any indication, that would suggest that in all likelihood we probably need to go down each of those side doors before making it through the top door, and the top door is likely where we will find the Guardian and the Crystal, at least, again, based on what we saw in both the Dark and then Water temples. So let's save here, and then we'll talk to Go, see if there's anything new to say to us. The Fire Temple, eh? It's rather odd here, ain't it? I'm sweltered like a pig on a spit. Want to see me wear, spread? Okay, and of course he does still have all the items that he was using previously. Oh, we actually didn't have a helmet on Legion, and that is probably something we should do now. And do we, say, have any more of those bone helmets? Because that is probably the best option for us. At the very least, we could throw on a kettle hat as a bit of a placeholder for the time being. We are, of course, also at a save crystal, so we could throw on a better helmet here. But let's just look at, is there anything we might want to pick up? Because we did see recently that we could certainly use a few more of these Phoenix Downs. We're a bit short on them at the moment. They are 500 gold pieces a piece, which is a little bit expensive if you consider that we might theoretically want to purchase multiple of them. But I think that's probably okay, because they are, of course, so important. So let's get 4. And maybe we'll split these a little bit between different people. Okay, and then other than that, we could theoretically afford an Emerald Bangle for some additional Earth resistance first and foremost, and a little bit of vitality and HP as well. However, both of us being in the Fire Temple here, I'm thinking that's probably not terribly relevant at the moment, so I think we'll pass. If anything, we might even want to consider purchasing some really cold water for some additional access to water damage through the potion spot. That way, if we get cursed or numbed, then we might be able to use this as another way of reliably dealing some damage. That is also 500 gold apiece, though, so I feel like that's maybe a little more speculative as to whether or not we'll need that, so let's hold off on that for the time being. Let's make a point of picking up a better helmet for Legion here in item storage. I think we should be able to find. Just a matter of who's hogging one. We do still have the black hat, which is not currently in use. It's not super relevant for us to have dark resistance here, or magic dark resistance as well on the reaction side of things. I would assume that we're expecting to take almost exclusively fire damage, but it is a powerful skill still, so maybe it's worth putting this on just for the sake of giving Legion time to master another ability. Let's give that a shot. Let's make sure that we activate the skill, of course. So if we go here, yeah, Legion should have plenty of RP to make it happen, and still has enough room for keeping on magic fire as well. So let's just poke our head in one of these side areas here and see what it's all about. And, well, okay. Of course, it did seem like all the previous temples did have a bit of a theme with them. The Dark Temple had rooms that were pitch black, we couldn't see at all, even when we were looking at our map like this. Water Temple was a bit of a maze, and that we had to flip a bunch of switches to make sure that we had the right doors unlocked and bridges created. So I'm curious as to what we're going to find here in the Fire Temple. No obvious indication just yet. What is it that is fire-themed? It's, of course, darkness in the Dark Temple. I suppose that makes sense. But what will we see in the Fire Temple? Our first battle here. And, okay, we see some Magmazards. Yes, we've seen plenty of these guys in the Crimson Peak area. So nothing new there. However, we'd see a Dank Roto? What? And it's Dark Elemental. It's technically a Gruul and a Beast. So it has Dark Resistance and Light Weakness. A little bit of Earth Resistance, however, nothing in the way of Fire Resistance or Water Weakness as we might typically expect of enemies in this area, as we saw in Crimson Peak. That's a little unusual and is maybe, in fact, reason enough for Legion to have put on that Dark Helmet. As for Zac, that does make it a little bit trickier for you to have a target for Sin Strike. I think the clear answer here would be the Magmazard. Let's give that a shot. And again, the damage is slightly higher than it was before, but with them having picked up an additional kill. Those are some dark attacks. Plague Gnaw, that doesn't sound great. Looks like, at least based on the animation there, that there's a chance that might cause some poison. So we'll have to be on the lookout for that. And for Burn, you do, of course, have access to skills like Smite Evil. It could deal a ton of damage to the Dank Roto, or with it being Dark Elemental. But I feel like you probably have enough damage with your normal attacks. Did it have anything in the way of defenses? It doesn't. So I think this should be enough. Especially if you crit. Legion. The easy answer would be to say, use a Bubble Breath on the Magmazard and take that out. Is there anything we could do on the Dank Roto? Not sure, because it doesn't have Water Weakness. Dark is, of course, not the right answer. The Gem Explosion would be Big Elemental. That might be the best way to go if, say, we were to deliberately make a point of trying to take out the Dank Roto. Let's give this a shot, then. See what it's all about, and yes, enough damage. Mardek gives you one more opportunity to use Water Slash. And you're a little over halfway toward mastering that ability, so good to see you're on pace there, and I think you'll have plenty of opportunities to use it here. As long as we don't run into exclusively those Dank Rotos. So, we actually did pass one of those chests there. Let's double back to pick that up, because it does seem like in the past we've seen that some of these temple chests have been very lucrative. We got, of course, that water sword that Mardek is using right now from one of them. This does seem somewhat dramatically placed. I wouldn't be shocked if this has an enemy in it. However, it's actually Phoenix down, and we're just buying that, so good to get one for free. And what do we see this time? Exactly the same setup we saw before. So we could get closer to mastering Sin Strike, yes. No additional kills for Zac, so same amount of damage we saw previously. Roto's still using Plague Gnaw. It does have that green effect that is shooting out when it bites. And again, I think we saw that Vern, you did crit last time, but I'm still pretty confident you should be able to take this guy out in one hit. Give it a shot. Yep. With a fair bit of damage to spare, so shouldn't be at much risk of us, say, getting the lower end of the damage range and missing out. Let's go with another Gem Explosion. Get rid of this guy here, because that worked well last time as well. Remember, though, that Legion does have pretty low MP, and therefore we want to be mindful of that, because Legion could, in fact, run out of MP fairly quickly. I missed the reaction there, but still got the chance to take out the Magnezard. Mr. Tails. Sure. We are getting enough money from these fights that was, I think, 970 from that one fight alone. I would suggest that if we really needed to, we could purchase a fair bit more in the way of those Phoenix Downs, if that seemed necessary. Okay, so again, this is one of the setups that we actually saw in the Crimson Peak here. Combination of Charred Bones and Magnezard. So these guys, of course, have the resistance to Dark, so definitely not going to be a Sin Strike target here. Let's continue to use that on the Magnezards instead. Won't be enough damage to take it out. So there's primarily, just for the sake of getting closer to mastering it, a couple of nubs. That is not something that I'm happy to see there. That means that Vern is going to find it difficult to take one of these guys out, because he won't be able to use Smite Evil, Disrupt Undead, or his default attack. And that was pretty much a guaranteed kill in the past, so we could opt for Green Lightning here. I don't think it'll be enough. Or we could take a turn to see if we could remove that. Well, we do have Balloon Juices, so that would do the trick. So tell you what, I think Vern does make a point of doing it. However, let's actually remove Mardek's Numb, because Vern is going to lose his turn here through using the item. Whereas if we use it on Mardek, Mardek can attack on his turn. Or we could say just use Legion's Tsunami to totally bail us out and get everyone down in one hit. I don't think that's totally necessary here, especially when we look at Legion's MP. It's at 53 right now, so this would take almost half of our MP to do this. So I would like to save that if we can, and go for maybe just a Bubble Breath here. That is enough to take down at least one of the Charred Bones. Mardek, you can now use a Water Slash. Let's do that to take out the other Charred Bones. And then Zac, will your Sin Strike be enough this time? I still don't think it's going to deal enough damage. It was, what, 277? 278? I'm sorry, Zac. Still not enough, though. And so Vern is still numbed, and so could theoretically use a Balloon Juice right here on himself. Means that he won't take an action this turn, other than that, though. And Legion, I'm a little bit concerned about the lowering MP, so let's just use a physical attack here. Won't be enough to take out a Magnezard, but I think we have enough time that we could, say, get rid of one of them with Mardek here, and then before they go again, we could still have Zac go and actually take one out with a Sin Strike. He's getting quite close now to mastering that. Therefore, we can go to his default attacks afterward, which would likely be, I think, a little bit more effective in terms of dealing as much damage as possible. Okay, and from this chest, we have more Balloon Juices, so fitting. In fact, that's actually 3 of them. Any other chests we should know of here? Actually, yes. We missed this pathway over here. Also has one. Let's check this. It's a Fire Essence. And I think it is possible to get those to drop from some of the enemies, but I don't think we've seen much of them, so good to pick it up. There is a switch there as well, and this is blocked off. Can't make it through these pillars, so we'll have to go around. And through whatever enemies we find here, actually 100% tank Rotos. So that means no good targets for Sin Strike. And we could say, use Coup de Grace, just for the purpose of mastering it. It deals more damage based on how many statuses the opponent has, and these guys don't have statuses, so again, using skills that are not necessarily the highest damage options with Zac, mostly just for the sake of mastering those skills, because he has so many that he can learn. There is the poison. It is possible, confirmed. Vern was our guinea pig, and Vern, we saw that with a normal attack, he should have enough damage to take these guys out, so let's do that. And then Legion, honestly, you might as well. Not sure if you necessarily would need to target one of the ones with lower HP, one that Zach already hit, or one that's on full HP here. Let's give this a shot. Oh, it's just shy. That's unfortunate. Okay, so Mardek. Ultimately, you could remove Taint and get rid of that poison on burn, but I think we'll save that for after this battle. Let's use a normal attack, or in fact, even a Water Slash. This will be the one that allows Mardek to master it. Let's go for the one with the most HP here. Of course, these guys aren't weak to water, but Mardek just has enough power to take him out regardless. No Sin Strike. However, if we were to say use a coup de grace, I think that would certainly be enough to take this guy out still. And it gets one more turn to attack. Burn will take damage here. We'll use default attack again for this guy. And like I said, we'll make a point of healing Burn, removing the poison after this battle. And picking up an antidote is another way we could theoretically do that. Oh, and actually, Mardek, yes, does master Water Slash, as we saw, but Legion also mastered the plus 50% accuracy reaction, which I believe was coming from its claw, which we're not about to switch out, but still good to have that mastered no less. Let's make a point of doing remove Taint here. And Mardek's MP is also starting to go down at a reasonable rate. Of course, we're doing a lot of those Water Slashes, and that had a lot to do with it. Now that we've mastered that ability, maybe we have less reason to do it, though. And we could focus more on just using the healing and status removal abilities and be at less risk of running out of MP. Fire Elemental. We've not yet seen any of these guys. They are, not so surprisingly, very resistant to fire, very weak to water, a little bit resistant to light and dark, and actually 100% resistant to air and earth, which is notable because Burn's default attacks are air, Zach's default attacks, if we hit the reaction, are also air, Mardek's are water, and Legion's are non-elemental here, and that has a fair bit of resistance too. We're going to have to be very mindful of what element we're attacking with here. Sin Strike, I think, Elemental had, what, 50% dark resistance? Yeah. We could still do that. And it might have a reaction. It does. We saw that with the previous one. Oh my goodness. I missed the reaction, speaking of reactions, and meant that Zach took more damage, and also means that Zach is very low on HP right now. So, in fact, Fire Elemental still has yet to take its turn, because that was just it reacting to the physical attack that Zach made. However, Burn, could you say, use a Smite Evil or Disrupt Undead solely for the purpose of converting what would normally be an Air Elemental attack into a Light Elemental attack, and have enough damage to take this out? I hope so. Yes, and in fact, that's enough for Mardek to level up. 32. Let's remember to heal Zach. There's some more Fire Essence. Zach actually mastered the plus 20% crit chance offensive reaction. Let's double check on Zach's offensive reactions if there's anything else we might want to swap around now that we've mastered that. But I think that is probably the best thing we could have on him here, unless, say, we wanted to swap over Quarry Undead for Drain HP, which, with him on low HP, might not be a bad idea. Of course, that should change here, with Mardek using heal, or 2. Okay, let's carry on. And I think we saw that this is where the switch was. Yes. Good. Then there's some kind of NPC over here. However, there's still one more chest. Maybe let's loop around and pick the chest up first. Oh, this battle is actually unavoidable. Level 23 enemy. We saw that the exclamation mark above our head was red, meaning that we were not even allowed to skip it, suggesting that this enemy was going to be a high level. And that is perhaps why. So, with Zach, I think we saw that Sin Strike is still probably the way to go, except we just want to make sure that we hit the defensive reaction on the assumption that you will not be able to take this guy out in one hit. I'm on alert. There it is. Far less damage when we hit the reaction. That's good to see. And then Burn, you could also use Smite Evil here, and that might still be enough. It is. We did also see that Mardek leveled up at the end of the previous battle, which might mean that he has enough RP now to throw on some additional skills. Let's just double check that real quick. He might have been at 18 at the end of the previous level, and that does mean that, say, we could throw on one more RP on the offensive reactions. What would we theoretically want to swap around in that case? Not entirely sure there's a great answer, because he does have what I would typically say are the best offensive reactions equipped right now, unless we knew for a fact we were about to go up against undead or spirit enemies. And on the defensive side, we could throw on Damage Soak 1, Presumably, we would have had that on if Mardek did have 1 RP available in the past, so I think that is just about all the confirmation we need that he was definitely on 18 RP before, and now 19 is new. And 10 damage soak is not terribly substantive, but it's something. It's better than nothing at all. And nothing new they could put on the magic defensive side. And with odd numbers on the passive side, there's very rarely anything that costs an odd amount of RP, outside of some things that are specific to characters, like Mechanical Body, that is only available for Legion. So let's move on here, and let's head on over to that chest we were talking about before, see what we can find there. And it will be a battle first. And we have some rubies and amberistals. I think this is actually the first time we've seen rubies, and not so surprisingly, they are equipping a ruby. So we saw some blood opals in the past that were similar to these guys in that they were a little bit orange, but were also fire elemental gemstone enemies. So these guys, again, as we would probably expect in this area, very resistant to fire, very weak to water, and other than that, a fair bit of resistance is possible to deal some damage with light or dark, or say even fig, but it might not need to come to that. Let's see. Zach, if you were to say Sin Strike, I'm not sure you're going to have enough damage to take it out, but let's give it a shot. That is actually enough to master Sin Strike, which is saying something. There's the flame on Zach, and it did hit the reaction, fortunately. So the ruby is definitely not down yet. Could we say take it out with Burn here? How much damage are we expecting him to be able to do? How much defense did these guys have? 37, in fact. That is a lot. That is one reason why using Sin Strike against them is quite good, because remember that Sin Strike basically ignores defense. This is almost feeling like a circumstance in which throwing on a tsunami could be helpful. There are a lot of enemies here that are difficult to take out. However, I think that we might want to say go a little bit less heavy on the MP, because Legion is on 43 now, and I would think that targeting the Ruby with full HP, still enough damage for that, yes. Explosion on specifically Mardek. Usually I think we saw that that attack was targeting everyone simultaneously, and as Mardek hit the reaction, no damage there, so that's good to see. Mardek with a Water Slash. I know we were saying that we might not need to use too many of those going forward, but opportunity to take out the Amberistal is, well, tempting. Can still do it even if I don't hit the reaction, fortunately. Zach, you do have an opportunity here to Sin Strike once more. You have now mastered it, so it's not necessary per se, but because the Ruby is comparatively weaker to Dark, still made some sense. And then Burn. I'm not sure if you're going to be able to do much to break through this guy's physical defenses. 37 is a lot. Not quite enough, in fact. Legion, I would love if you didn't have to use any of your MP here, but I don't think you're going to deal any damage at all with this attack. Let's test it out. Yeah, precisely 0. And we'll get attacking here. Fortunately, we hit our reactions there as well. Mardek with just a normal attack should have enough damage here. Oh, except no! Even if it's Water Elemental, what with the high physical defense is still enough to prevent any damage, even from Mardek's Water Sword. Zach, however, Sin Strike. There you have it. Useful in this circumstance. Enemies with high defenses, very effective. And Legion actually just mastered plus 20% experience, which is coming from the Candrethrope, which is that big elemental gemstone that we put on, thing that is giving Legion the big elemental gem explosions, of course. And as we saw, Zach has now mastered Sin Strike, which is also good to see. Let's take this magic shirt, which I believe we saw in a shop once in Aeropolis. And it was, I want to say, at least at the time, seemingly pretty expensive, but to get one for free here is not bad. It does give the minus 20% damage physical reaction, and it is clothing, meaning that it should be something that we could put on even characters who are not able to wear heavy armors. So that is something that could perhaps make this skill a little bit more accessible to those types of characters. However, I think for the most part, anyone who can wear this, and of course that doesn't include Legion, will likely already have learned this ability. That includes Zach. It actually does not include Burn. He is close to mastering, but has not yet mastered it. That could be a reason to throw this on. Mardek, you have to have mastered this, right? Yeah. Okay, so maybe let's throw this in Burn's inventory as a little bit of a reminder to ourselves. And one other thing that we were talking about a while back when we were talking about using the Candrethrope on Legion for that big elemental gem explosion is we were saying that, yes, that is oftentimes very useful because it is the only way in which to have big elemental attacks. However, there are other interesting alternatives, because say if we were to put in the Sapphire instead, we get water elemental gem explosions, and that's a way of having water elemental skills in the Fire Temple, which is tempting, yes. However, bear in mind that Legion already has access to several water elemental skills, and therefore might not be something that we feel the need to do. Let's stick with the Cannery though, because Big Elemental can be very effective against bosses in particular, and if Legion already has access to several water elemental skills, then that's probably enough to take care of the usual enemies we'll encounter here, so this will give us a little bit of an ace up our sleeve. And I think this is probably a good place for us to wrap up here. We have now, of course, made our way into the Fire Temple, and we've gotten a little bit of a sense of what to expect here. Still don't know exactly what we're going to find in terms of any additional twists or turns that are specific to the Fire Temple, like I was saying before. Dark Temple had the dark rooms, Water Temple had the locking doors and the bridges that we had to create by flipping the switches. We do, of course, see a switch here, but I don't think we're going to find that things are as complex as they were in the Water Temple, so what surprises await us? We'll just have to wait and see.